Here we are.
What's
Twist
up?
is here. It's the dynamic duo,
Episode
GBG
38.
and Benzie. Episode 38. Kurt Schilling, the bloody sock. We're here. What's up, Greg? How are you, bud?
Doing great. It's a holiday weekend. We got Mike is up near Canada with the kids, just enjoying the last holiday, summer break. And I got Grandma Terry in town taking care of it. Right now, she's with the kids. They're playing either the game of life or Yahtzee. They just got done watching Castaway, where I think Connor was learning life survival skills.
Yeah, we were talking about this morning about how I know that I could survive as long as he did on an island. I know I could do that. I've watched enough Bear Grylls to know how to finesse my way and survive. You yourself have actually sent in videos to Survivor so you believe you could do it as well, huh, Greg?
I think that on a show like Survivor, my personality would either get me voted off first or I would win. I wouldn't be a middle personality. Either people would like me and they'd kind of jump on board, or they would be so flippin' annoyed with me that I would be off before they would vote me off before the first tribal council.
Sure. That's awesome.
So it's very hot or cold.
Sure. I dig that. I dig it very well. So once again, thank you, Twist Nation, for tuning in. This is the Weekend Sports Talk with Matt Benz, myself, and Greg Green Bay Bauman. Follow us on Twitter at TwistBenz and at TwistGBG. Either you're listening to us right now live on the Twist Facebook page, live on the RTF Network Facebook page, or you're listening to us Friday at 1 p.m. Central Time on rtfsportsnetwork.com. Make sure to check that website out if you're not there. Plenty of awesome shows. So me and Greg got a action-packed show for you today.
Matt, before you go any further, I don't want to correct you. I don't want to correct you, but it's kind of my
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah. Friday at 1 o'clock on RTF is your show, Benzie's Bit.
Oh, see, that's what I was trying to funnel them to my show, Greg.
Yeah,
Wednesdays, right?
Mondays and Thursdays. Wednesdays is me. Tuesdays is Mike on the mic.
Well, any day, just go to RTF Sports Network any day at 1 p.m. Central Time, and you'll hear one of us goons talking to the public.
Exactly.
All right. I like that. That sounds good. So we've got Mike Reeves corrected us as well. Of course, he's on a vacation at a palatial resort, and he's still watching the show. I'm glad that he's tuning in. That's awesome. We'll have him on in a little bit.
Right now, his 4-year-olds are probably in the lake drowning, and he's like, well, just a second. I got to watch the show. I got to correct these guys.
It's awesome. So Twist is on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but enough of that hootenanny. Let's go ahead and get into it with our first segment, which is involving the NFL. So Greg, you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. The first question I have for us to discuss is, what player will have the biggest impact on his new team going into this season?
I love that question. It is going to be interesting with all of the different moves. I want to say, Leonard Fournette, but I don't have a lot of faith in that for us, Greg, because we each have him on one of our teams. So I'm going to go in and say Hayden Hurst, tight end, was picked up by the Atlanta Falcons. I love that. I think that with a guy like Matty Ice as the quarterback and how much they use the tight end position, especially last season, where the tight end position had 121 targets. They no longer have Austin Hooper, so that gives Hayden Hurst basically the reins to that position. They do have backups as well in, let's see here, Jaden Graham, and Luke Stocker, So I have a lot of faith in Hayden Hurst this season, and that is my pick. How about you, Greg?
I got someone on a team that just was one player shy, Phillip Rivers. They have an amazing offensive line. For another reason. First, I think Phillip Rivers has 1 or 2 more good years left in the tank. They have an amazing offensive line. They have enough. They don't have great, but they have enough offensive talent. And you bring in, the rookie running back, Jonathan Taylor. Their defense is better than average. But I think that the biggest reason why they're going to be so much better this year is the other teams in their division are dropping off. The Jacksonville Jaguars are by far the worst team probably in the past 10 years going into the season. I don't think that the Texans are going to be as good as they were last year. So really you have to compete against the Tennessee Titans. Now, will the Tennessee Titans? I think the Tennessee Titans are going to be a lot like the Packers were last year. They they do a lot better than people thought, and they're going to kind of come back to the herd. I think that 9-7 is a good season for the Tennessee Titans, and who's going to take away those victories? I think that the beneficiary of that is going to be the Indianapolis Colts because of Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, I have Indy. I'm very high on them this season. So is Mike as well. A lot of people are haters in Phillip Rivers, and yes, he had weapons with the Chargers, but he never had that comfort in the backfield, as in that offensive line. And that offensive line for Indy is crazy in of itself. I mean, Quentin Nelson is a monster. So, yeah, I love that take. What do you got for your second question then, Greg?
My next question is, do you think that the NFL will make it through the season into February, play a Super Bowl on schedule, all things considered?
Yeah, I do. I think there will be a full season. However, I do think there's going to be some issues with rotating teams bye week. I don't necessarily think that the buys that the team has right now is going to be the buy that they're going to get, simply because if you look at what happened in the baseball and things like that, there's no way to do doubleheaders in football yet, at least for us. So just that rotation, I think there's going to have to be fluid motion and shuffling around. But I think with all the money that's at stake, and to see that the scare of COVID in baseball this year, and to see how they handled it, they were not in a bubble situation and they still made it work. And now it's to the point where you don't really hear much of it because guys are taking care of themselves. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about, was just, you don't want to be that guy, that Rudy Gobert of the NFL, that causes everything to be a kerfuffle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, more specifically, I think that great take on the bye week, Spence. See, okay, I really do like that take, and I'm going to follow up on that.
Yeah.
The NFL, now granted that this has a lot to do with just pre-scheduling. They have the Super Bowl planned at the venue where it's going to be at years in advance. This year it's going to be in Tampa. One thing to consider is they have nothing going on in that stadium until like the middle of March.
Yeah.
So to your point, if they have to shuffle stuff around, if they have to, they could just in the middle of October say, you know what, we're not playing games this week, and then just push everything back a week.
Right.
And then so because they don't have to have that first Sunday in February Super Bowl, it could be late February. So I think that based on circumstances and based on just flexibility because of the venue, they could just say, you know what, one or two times this season, look, we have too much going on, too much of an outbreak. Let's just take 10 days, shut her down, get everyone, through their self-quarantine, and then start up again. They have the benefit of that. And now granted, like I said, they didn't plan that. That was planned years in advance, but because of everything being canceled and people literally kind of bringing stuff back, bringing, events back, they're going to benefit from this. Unlike, like you said, unlike baseball, where you're playing 60 games in 66 days, so you got to jump in double headers. They have the benefit of just putting a timeout on it.
Yeah, sure they do. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I like that take. Good take, Greg. Next question.
Next question is, which free agent that's still out there will still have an impact this year on a team that obviously would have been yet to sign him?
Yeah, I'll let you take the lead on this one then, Greg. I want to see where you go.
I still think it's going to be Jadeveon Clowney. And the reason is because I think that the only reason why thus far he hasn't signed with a team is because of injury. I'm sorry, because of his injury and the amount of money he was asking for. Yeah. I think that now that we're 1 week away from the season, I think he's going to sign at a lesser dollar amount, maybe $10 to $8 million for a 1-year contract. And he's going to go to a team that just needs him situationally. He wanted to be, that 3-down bat, that 3-down, run stopper, sacker, but his numbers don't say that. So I don't know who he's going to go to. Obviously, I would love for him to go to Green Bay to plug up the middle. I think there's probably 8 teams that could use a guy like that, but I still think it's going to be Jadeveon Clowney because I think that he's past the injury, and I still think he's got a lot left in the tank.
Okay. Well, I definitely, I wanted to go around him, because I feel like he, you look on any of the current standings for the rankings for the available free agents, and you see his name at number 1. I wanted to reach deep and kind of figure out who else on that list would make an impact this season. And I feel like it's a guy that just got released, and that's Prince Amukamura. I remember him with the Bears. He recently signed a 1-year contract worth more than $1.18 million, and that was on May 18th. And he was expected to play for the Raiders. That's chump change to a team that's looking for a veteran back, like DB, right? So I liked him a lot. Unfortunately, I always had to play against him when it was the Vikes playing against him, but I think he can make an impact, especially for a team like my Vikings that need help in the DB wise and need some veterans back there. I don't see them grabbing him, but I do think that he can make an impact. Really, the only reason why he's not still with the Raiders is because the rookie Damon Arnett that they drafted, he excelled in camp. So why do they need him? Let's get the rookie out there right away. Typical Gruden move, right? So that's my take on free agent.
Nice. Before we jump into the next category, Mike Reeves, GBG needs a haircut like the Packers need a wide receiver. Yes, the Packers do need a wide receiver. And just for the Twist audience, I am waiting until Friday afternoon, September 11th, to get my haircut by Matt Benzie's personal stylist. So I'm looking fresh with a fresh cut for Matt's wedding the following week.
Isn't that crazy?
Mike usually cuts my hair. He's been cutting my hair for about 2 years now. But I'm going with the professional look. I'm going with the professional trim down. So yeah, Mike, don't worry, it's happening.
I think it's funny. You kind of look like a Wisconsin lumberjack. Do they have those? Do they have trees in Wisconsin?
Trees? Yeah, up north.
Like trees big enough to not. Oh, up north. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought Wisconsin was north, so that's what we'll go with that.
Actually, but Wisconsin's perception of up north is anything north of Madison. So
sure.
So it's 80% of the state, whereas in Minnesota,
so like Superior, right? Superior, Wisconsin is North Wisconsin, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. You don't get much more north than that. But like in Minnesota, they consider up north anything north of St. Cloud.
Sure.
Whereas Wisconsin considers anything like north of Milwaukee or Madison.
Makes sense. Like where Mike Reeves is right now, basically on the border. The boundary waters is basically where he's at right now, in my mind. Yeah, exactly. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to dive into headlines here, get that rolling. First and foremost, I'll let you start with the headline that you just heard. We had breaking news right before we went live. So if you want to kind of tell the people what they want to hear, give it to them.
With Deshaun Watson signing a 4-year, $160 million extension with the Houston Texans. Just saw it on ESPN right before we went. I thought that was interesting because just a quick take on it.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that Deshaun Watson was going to, milk out this year, see where the Texans were at, and then possibly, handcuff them and look to not free agency so much, but force a trade. With them getting rid of D-Hop. So I thought that was interesting that he's willing to stay on board. I mean, crap ton of money. I mean, you do the math, 4 years, $160 million. It's not exactly chump change.
No.
That comes out to $40 million a year.
Yeah, that's crazy in of itself, but that just shows that the market for quarterbacks is rising like any other position. But also, I mean, if there's one thing that Bill O'Brien actually did in this offseason, I know we're a week out, but in the offseason, he did something right. And I guess that's good for him. So yeah, interesting take. And let's get it rolling. So Washington football team, God, that sounds stupid. Washington football team releases the veteran running back Adrian Peterson. Peterson spent the past 2 years with Washington, leading the team in rushing over that time with 1,940 yards and 12 touchdowns. He has rushed for 14,216 yards, trailing Barry Sanders by 1,053 yards for fourth place on the NFL's career list. Peterson ranks fourth with 111 rushing touchdowns. Your thoughts on that headline, Greg?
I saw on the Twitter machine, I follow a bunch of sports writers from Minnesota, and a lot of people were chiming in saying, should Minnesota bring him back? No.
No.
Minnesota's got a lot of other needs. I think that he'll play in another year or two. I think that he's going to be a situational back, and I think there's a lot of teams that could use him because he's still got a lot left in the tank. I mean, who could use him? It's too soon. It's too soon to tell. I think that he's going to wait for maybe an injury or, see what kind of pans out. But, you never know. He could be a guy. He could be a guy that would actually be able to give a guy like Saquon Barkley a breather every now and again.
Yeah, I could see understandable. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Me personally, I would tell him walk. Just walk. The Vikings should bring him back on a day contract for you to hang him up in style. I don't believe running backs should go through the ringer, and I understand financially he's probably still not where he saw himself being at this point in his life, especially with the talent he had. But, just like Reeves is saying, I agree with that. Bring him back on a one-day contract, retire as a Viking. Is he done? I doubt it. Mentally, he probably still thinks he has more than what he actually has physically. He is not a lead role back anymore, and that's going to be a tough pill for him to swallow. So, interesting headline in of itself. Moving on, we'll stay with a Minnesota team here. The Twins outfielder Max Kepler makes first trip to the injured list with abductor strain. He is hitting .220 with 7 home runs and 18 RBIs this season. To replace him on the roster, the Twins called up outfielder Brent Rooker from the team's alternate training site and have added catcher Williams Asadio, a.k.a. The Turtle, as the 29th man. Exciting stuff there. Next, we've got Cam Newton. Not only was he named starting quarterback, but he was also named team captain. Julian Edelman stated, and I quote, "It says a lot. He came in with an energy. He came in with a purpose. He came in as a natural leader, and that's what you want from that position." Any thoughts on that one, Greg?
Yeah, I think that it's typical Bill Belichick in this post-Brady era that he kind of changing his tune. I think that he one thing that I think Bill Belichick doesn't get enough credit for, it's being a good manager of personalities. He comes off as very stagnant, very I treat everyone the same way. He really doesn't. And I think that Tom Brady thrived in that whole mentality of, he was a Belichick clone. And now that he's giving Cam Newton the attention that Cam Newton wants and Cam Newton needs, he knows, if I throw this guy the headlines, if I throw this guy the spotlight, he'll perform that much better. You don't go like this, and do the Superman thing if you don't have an ego. And Bill Belichick is playing into that. So I think that this is genius by him.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of enabling going on early in Cam's career with, babysitter player type coaches that you think that they need to cradle and rock these quarterbacks when Bill is the type of guy that he's old school football. It's like, you're here because you're getting paid to excel at the position that I got you to play it, and we'll have nothing. There will be nothing. And I think that's really humbling, especially obviously how long it took him to find a team this season. So that's a whole nother story, but on to the next one. Jacksonville Jaguars trade safety Ronnie Harrison to Cleveland Browns. The Jacksonville Jaguars continued their roster purge Thursday by agreeing to trade safety Ronnie Harrison to the Cleveland Browns for a 2021 fifth-round pick. Harrison has started 22 of 28 games in which he played for the Jaguars since they drafted him in the 3rd round out of Alabama in 2018. That in of itself, another early draft pick that they're just throwing to the curb. I understand a rebuild, but that's interesting in of itself, right, Greg?
Yeah, I don't, some of these I get with the Jaguars and some I don't. I get it if you don't want to spend money on Leonard Fournette. I get it if you can get a, king's ransom for some other players, but you still need 53 bodies to put a team together. Yeah. And why not stick around and keep some guys with some experience? He's not, a tomato can. Right. So you're going to need guys with some experience, especially if you're bringing in rookies, which that's obviously what you're looking at. You need guys to mentor them.
Yeah, definitely. It's a shit show down there right now. Moving on, the Los Angeles Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw records 2,500th career strikeout. He reached that strikeout in the LA Dodgers 5-1 victory over the Arizona Diamondbacks on Thursday at Dodger Stadium, a major milestone that puts him in the company of some of the greatest of all time. Obviously, for me, Clayton Kershaw can't perform well in the playoffs, but as a pitcher in of itself, I mean, the numbers don't lie. So,
Yeah. No,
awesome.
yeah. When you look at it too, is you talk about the plus stuff, but we lost Tom Seaver this week, and it makes you reflect about how great the pitchers of back in the day were, and Kershaw, Verlander, those guys are a dying breed right now. So getting 2,500 strikeouts isn't something that's going to happen as often as it used to, because they're not pitching as many innings, they're not pitching as many days, they're on a 5-day wait. So it's something we're just not going to see as often anymore.
Yeah, and the big thing to realize is like Clayton's one of the last around, him and Verlander, that actually pitch. It's different than the nuance of I throw over 100 miles an hour. I can't really spot my fastball. One of the guys I grew up watching was Greg Maddux, and Greg Maddux was a monster because he could pick and pick and pick at guys. It wasn't that breakaway high 90s. It was just that 88, 86 mile an hour fastball and a good curveball that he could put wherever he wanted on any given night. So good for Clayton. And on to our MLB segment. Go ahead, Greg.
Nice. First question in the MLB is, which team surprises you the most this year?
Okay, I love that question. I'm going to go with, it is a surprise to me, but it's more of a disappointment, and that would be the Boston Red Sox. Currently, they're 12-26 and last in the AL East. They have gotten rid of, obviously, Mookie Betts and things of that nature, but JD Martinez currently is batting .233. Rafael Devers is batting .253. I mean, last year they were an 84-78 team, so they were on the verge of going downhill. But once you get rid of, Price and things of that nature, this team is just in shambles. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be my take.
Yeah, good one, because you always assume that they're, them and which team is going to win the World Series this year, them or the Yankees. You always think that you kind of got lost in the weeds, that they're just not doing well. The team I'm going with is the Padres. The Padres, to me, are a lot like the 76ers of baseball. You keep hearing stories about what are they going to do, and it looks like this year they're finally doing it. You got Fernando Tatis Jr., which I cross my fingers and hope that he doesn't turn into a prima donna, all about the media, because right now he's the fun guy of baseball. He's reminding people that baseball is supposed to be fun, and I actually really enjoy watching him. But then they bring in Clevinger at the trade deadline, who, granted, he did ruffle some feathers in Cleveland, but he's still a great pitcher. And I'm really enjoying watching them, because if you have this young talent and you have a lot of guys to put around Tatis Jr., I think that they're going to be a fun team to watch. And this year, who knows? Having Clevinger on your roster, you might surprise some people in this expanded playoff format.
Yeah, and another thing with the Padres, too, is they actually picked up Trevor Rosenthal at the trade deadline, too, from the Kansas City Royals, which is awesome for me being a Twins fan and you being a Twins fan, simply because, Rosenthal is a gas-throwing closer, man. He's an end of the game. So for the Padres to take him into the NL, that boosts them as well. Because when it comes to playoff time, which is only 4 weeks away, they're going to need arms in plethora, and that's kind of a bummer that we didn't do that here in Minnesota, but that's another conversation as well. Next question, Greg.
All right, my next question is, we'll talk about this after, come beginning of November, but watching the baseball season this year, do you enjoy knowing that we have an expanded playoff number of teams, or is this just a 1-year pandemic thing and you want it to go back to the way it was in previous years, having the expanded number of teams?
Sure. Yeah. I personally love this idea. And I think they should carry it through into the future, simply because playoff baseball is what it's all about. You know, I'm the type of baseball fan that I'll watch it throughout the season, but also you get to that point, especially when it's the long season, where your hype is there at the beginning and then you lose interest until about the end of September and get back into it. So I definitely believe that with this expanded playoff format, it will help because, like I said, playoff baseball is baseball, man. Every single at bat, every single pitch counts and makes sense. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I do too, and we'll get into the into the basketball thing, but I love having more teams in the playoffs because it keeps more teams interested during the season, and it's never hurt the NHL or NBA having more teams in, and you never know when you're going to get that upset. I'm going to get more specifically into that later, but it makes it more fun. And it also keeps the other teams on their toes. The Yankees and the Dodgers this year, teams like that in years past, can't just sit back and, rest your number one starter, rest your ace the last week of the season, have them ready to go, because more than likely you're not going to have that huge lead. And you have to then, guys like you and me that really enjoy watching, pitch counts, inning counts, things like that. I think it's going to make it more interesting. So I hope they stick with it. I really enjoy watching it. So
love that. Excellent.
Next question. Do you like the 2020 oddities in baseball, the 7-inning doubleheaders, starting a guy on second base in extra innings or something else? Do you like these goofy nuances?
Yeah, it's funny because I follow a bunch of like traditionalists for baseball, old timers that are on Twitter. Imagine that, old timers on Twitter, which they should just step away. But yeah, they just hate it. They hate the 7-inning doubleheaders. They hate putting a guy on second base in extra innings. And it's like, for me personally, you have to. MLB either has to adapt to the new generations of the long ball, fast play. They got to have the attention going all the time. And I think these are just one of the couple of little things that make baseball more exciting. You can't have a baseball game that goes 18 innings and expect people to continue to tune in, especially the younger generation. They're going to get bored and they're going to say F it. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And I like it too. And the thing is yeah, it's a 60-game season this year, but they're being very combative as to shortening the season, in a non-pandemic year. You have 162 games. You have, like you said, you have to do something to keep the interest. So if you're going to have 7-inning doubleheaders, if you're going to do goofy things, and I say goofy because it's the first year they're doing it, starting a guy on second base so it doesn't go 18 innings, or more than likely it doesn't. But if you're not going to shorten the season, you have to do something to keep interest. And I think that this is the best way of doing it, because you don't want people to check out August and September, because everyone's watching in June and July. Everyone wants to go out to games, but you don't have people watching in April and May because that's the NHL and NBA playoffs. You don't have people watching in September because that's the start of the NFL season, unless you do something to keep their interest, because they don't overlap games. Or, I mean, they do sometimes, but give people a reason to pick. Do you want to watch a Sunday night football game at the end of September that you have no interest in, or an important baseball game? Well, if you give people a reason to watch the baseball game and you make it fun, then you know what? That's going to have more interest. F it.
You got Chief Bauman here. He says, F it. Where is Mike? Yeah, this is a family-friendly show this week. I'll tell you that. I'm hoping that, my niece and nephew, Greg's kids, can watch it and not have to worry about sending them in the other room for a little while. Don't worry, Chief. Mike will be on in a little bit. I guarantee for the little amount of time he's on, we'll probably have to make this, parental advisory, but we'll see how that goes.
I just think it's funny that the only comment we've had so far that's pissed off that Mike isn't there is from my dad.
Yeah, imagine that. I'm still here though, Chief, so it'll be all right. Excellent. So we're going to go on to the rant segment. I will let Greg take the top on this one. I'm guaranteeing you got a lot to be angry about right now, especially in the sports world. So go right ahead, Greg.
Actually, what I'm angry about is very general. I'm pissed off at players for making excuses when everyone is in the same boat. You know, specifically, I see LeBron James this morning complaining about, oh, no, now we know how to play against Houston. What do you mean? After you just lost? Or you have a lot of players that are bitching about being in a bubble, about not having their family. And then when they get their family, they're still losing games. You know what? Don't bitch about something where everybody is in the same boat. Don't bitch about being in a bubble, because everyone's in a bubble. You guys voted to play. Don't bitch about, playing 60 games in 66 days if you're MLB, because you guys wanted the money. And you can't have your cake and eat it too. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you want to complain because of an oddity, a player gets hurt and did everything right, or whatever the case is, it's someone goes down with injury, and it's a goofy thing, fine. But don't bitch about something where everybody is in the same boat. Everyone's dealing with the same pandemic. Everyone's dealing with the same bubble if you're NBA, NHL, or everyone has to deal with the same number of games in the same number of days as baseball. Football's got to deal with the same thing. Don't bitch about it. Just deal with it. Find solutions. Don't find reasons to bitch. That's all I got.
I love that. That's just the world in a nutshell right now, is that it's so easy to focus on the problems and to, whine and complain about this or that, when really, I mean, if you focus on the positives and, live a life full of gratitude, which is hard, I get it. Especially lately, Greg, I've been extremely stressed out. I'm getting married 2 weeks from today. Obviously, you know that. And I don't even know what I'm stressed out about. Yeah. I don't even know why I am. And that's just kind of like how I've kind of been able to go through COVID and the riots and the revolution of the world right now. And I've been able to kind of stay even keel, but now I kind of feel what other people are feeling. And it's just that unnerving ick. And for people to say that they're in the bubble and they're all stressed out, or that's the reason why they lost, I just find it funny that your rant was still included LeBron, even though the Bucks are almost on the verge of getting swept. But that's okay. We'll get to that in a little bit.
I'll get to that.
No problem.
I'll get to that.
So my rant is going to be similar to what I talked about on Benzie's bit. That is about the Kirk Cousins drama. My rant in of itself isn't exactly aimed towards the media this time, because I ranted about that on Benzie's bit, but more it's on him apologizing to the media about what he said. Kirk Cousins may not be the best primetime quarterback, may not be able to step up in huge situations, and I'm okay with that as a Vikings fan. I'm okay with that, because I know that Kirk on and off the field is going to represent himself in the proper manner. And just hearing the podcast that he was on and hearing how he was just trying to have a good time, he was even kind of like chuckling, trying to just be not so robotic. And for him to let his guard down for a couple minutes and to just get ripped apart because he is not afraid. He's not living a life of fear based on what is going on and what you see on your TV screens. And then him to just get dragged through the mud. I thought that was just absurd. And then he did go and apologize. And I understand why he did, like, just to, do that, because of how much it brought up everywhere. Twitter was going absolutely insane. I even had a guy that used to be affiliated with RTF, and I had to let him have it, because it's like he was posting on all the social media like, how could this guy do it? And I'm like, you need to listen to the whole podcast. And I said, did you? And he goes, well, no, I guess I should. It's like, don't go and report something just because you saw the 4-letter network publish, oh, Kirk Cousins says if he dies from corona. Literally, that's all people were reading, is that headline. And they're just like, oh my God, this guy he's a Looney Tune. Like, no, he's not at all. If you listen to it and actually got the context of it, he was just saying he's not afraid. So, yeah.
I actually gained a lot of respect for Kirk Cousins because of this. It showed his human side. When it comes to sound bites with Kirk Cousins, you're right. Most of the time, he's very robotic. He's very PC. You know, the most goofy thing he's ever done was after a game. How do you like me now? And all that. But I think that what he did in this case was he showed himself as being a person. And you know what? And I thought the ironic part about it was all the memes that came out after was him as Ivan Drago, from Rocky IV, which in this case, I thought that what he did was built up a great conversation.
Yeah.
Which is, if like you said, because I watched the whole podcast too, is he's humanizing it. He's saying, he's saying if we do everything we're supposed to, what else am I supposed to do?
Right.
And exactly. So, you know what? I mean, Vikings, Packers aside, I gained a lot of respect for Kirk Cousins as a person for stepping out and not saying something robotic.
So I see in the background of our studio right now that we've got this tattooed, tanned, caramel, godlike individual. And I'm going to just bring him on simply because why not? Why not do Twist Bets right now? He's ready to rock and roll. Mike, let's hear it. Where are you at right now? Are you in Canada or are you in the United States of America?
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, you still sound like
we got Mike Reeves on location.
Here we go.
So I'm coming to you live from Cragen's Resort here on Gull Lake in Brainerd, Minnesota.
Are they comping you a night because you're pitching it on a international podcast right now?
Well, I'm going to talk to him here after the show, and I'm going to show him Twist Nation and the following we have. And, yeah, I'm hoping to get a free pontoon or something here.
That's awesome. Well, that's good. So, better than us, we all went 1-1 last week. Is that correct?
That's right. I'm trying to figure out my camera here. Well, hold on here. Greg.
Yeah.
How do I do this here? This way. What's up with your Bucks, man?
I'll get into it when we got it.
0-3.
I think it's funny
Giannis Pippen.
Yeah. I just think it's funny that when they on game one, when they refer to Butler as the adoptive son of Milwaukee, he screws us over. Yeah. Just because the guy played college basketball at Marquette doesn't mean he's an adopted son of Milwaukee.
Was that you I saw selling your jersey on the Facebook Marketplace?
No, I still have that because we're gonna have Giannis for at least one more year.
Well, yeah, but you can get the prime dollar for it now. It's going to be worthless in a year when he's in New York.
Nah, the chief went out of his way to purchase that for me. I'm keeping it.
Good. That was very smart. That's excellent. I love it.
Chief, how you doing? This is for you. Fuck the Bucks. There you go.
There it is. Brilliant. All right. So getting into the bets of the week, I have mine, so I will start. Right now, Mike is leading by a win currently. So he is up a win to us. I can't allow that to stay. So hopefully these are bomb. So I'm going to go with my sleeper pick is going to be the Oakland A's over Greg's Padres. And that will be tomorrow's game with Mike Fires. Fires? F-I-E-R-S. What would you say, Mike?
Fears.
No fears here.
Yeah,
so
Mike
we'll go with that for tomorrow's game. And then my lock is going to be the Rays over the Marlins today with Blake Snell pitching. Mike?
Well, I'm going to go, I believe today's game, I did this a couple days ago, but I'm going to go Toronto over Boston. I'm hoping they can pull off another one. And the Clippers for the dub.
Nice. Good picks. And those are today's game. Those aren't the most recent games that they've already played, right?
Right, because then I'd already have won.
Yeah, right. Makes sense. Chief's just glad you said fuck on the screen, so that's good. I'm glad that we got that in there.
I don't know what a PG show looks like, Chief. I don't know what these clowns are trying to do, but they're always trying to get me to be more PC, and that's not part of my vocabulary. You fucking get me how you get me, and if you don't like it, tune out and go watch Mike and Mike Man Hour.
Well, this segment is sponsored by Bricks Boatworks. Since we don't have an interview today, we'll sponsor it with Mike cussing all over the place.
Get over here, boy.
There he goes. Greg, your
All right.
bets.
My lock is I got the Clippers as well. I can't catch Mike. I got to do it honestly. And my upset, I'm taking the Celtics over the Raptors. I don't know why. I just think that the Celtics, like the Heat, just seem to have their number on the higher seed.
Excellent. Love it.
So
That's
Good
your
bet.
upset?
yeah, Celtics over.
How is that? That's
'Cause
not
they're-
an upset.
Yeah, they are.
Ooh,
Yeah, it
that-
is. The Raptors.
I don't
are
know about that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they are. The Raptors are the 2 seed.
Yeah, they're also down because I
Yeah.
have the upset of the Raptors.
That's impressive.
We're going to have to do some checking because if Boston is an upset, I'm taking Boston. Why would I take the Raptors? They can't match up against the Celtics.
Oh, I love
not
it.
Just
Well,
'cause
we'll
they're the
go
2
ahead.
seed.
We'll go ahead and check the odds here after, and we'll have to
Yeah.
clarify what the bets are then.
Yeah,
Check the
whichever-
odds, and then Greg and I will take the underdog of that game, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So you're going to take the Raptors if they're the underdog.
Sure.
Love it. Good.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what are you got some final words for Reeves before you go enjoy the palatial estate that you're at right now?
Well, I tell you what, it'd be a lot better without kids. But they're all over this beach. I'm sitting here looking at a little play park here, but we're gonna get some paddle boards out today, do some jet skiing tomorrow, and keep working on this tan for Benzie's wedding here.
It's coming quick, bud. It's coming quick. Well, excellent. I'm glad that you could join us today, and we'll see you when you get back, and we'll talk to you later.
Love you, fellas. Look
Love you
forward
too,
to
baby.
watching this game here, Greg.
Nice. Oh, this is going to be funny.
Oh, God.
All right, let's
Peace.
jump into it.
Yeah, let's see. So we've got me on the hot seat, I guess. I saw this tab that you made when I signed in earlier, and I was like, this sounds horrible. But go ahead, Greg. Start it up.
It's not that bad. So, we just had Mike on the show, and you refer to Mike and I as brothers. You're an only child. So I'm going to ask you 10 questions about me and Mike.
Sure.
That, specifically speaking, I want to see your hands too, because I don't want you going to your social media. These are questions that not
Here,
only.
hold on. Here, see? This is my phone.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, these are 10 questions that not only should you know, but we have specifically talked about these things within the past month to 6 weeks.
Sure.
So if you don't get 7 of 10 correct,
Sure.
I might have to find something else to do 2 weeks from today.
Go ahead. I love this. This will be fun.
First question on the list.
Yeah.
How old is Kinley? Mike's daughter.
11.
Boom! Wrong. She's
Ooh.
10. She just turned 10 last week.
Dang it. I thought she just turned 11. Okay.
No.
All right. All right.
Next question. Like I just said, you refer to us as brothers. I have 2 real brothers. What's my older brother's name?
Dan.
Dan is my twin brother, and he's also technically my younger brother. My older brother's name is Mike.
Fuck.
You are 0 for 2.
I got one, though. I did good. Old Danny.
You haven't
boy.
gotten one yet. You got one brother. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I said older brother.
So I get a half point for that?
Next. No, you don't. All right. Next question. Mike's twins. What's Parker's middle name?
Oh, we just talked about this at the beach.
A week ago. 2 weeks ago. This is hilarious. This is by far this is my favorite.
And he said
segment.
he wanted Parker's first name to be it.
Yep.
Oh man. I don't know it. I'm not even gonna guess.
0 for 3. It's Lennox.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got Lennox Lewis. That's what I should.
Just for the record, when Mike sent me his 5 questions, I didn't even need him to give me the answers. I already knew them, just to show you how good of a friend you are. Okay,
Oh
here's
my
one.
God.
If you don't get this one,
Sure.
what's my middle name?
Why would I know this?
Okay, because not only do I have a tattoo of my initials on my leg, but I'll give you the other two after you give all the other two clues after you give up.
Brad.
My middle name is Peter. I always refer to having the exact same initials as the Green Bay Packers. And I've jokingly told you 2 weeks ago my parents named me after the Brady Bunch kids. Greg.
How
Peter,
do you have the same initials as the Green Bay Packers?
just in a different order. But I said to you last week when we were in the car, I even said my parents named me after the Brady Bunch kids, which is actually a joke. They didn't.
Whatever,
You are
Mike. I
over
don't want
four.
to hear it.
This is pathetic.
It's pretty good. I like this so far. I'm learning
Okay.
a lot.
How many tattoos does Mike have?
Are we going by pieces? Because
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So let's see. Ooh, so that's so tough. Are you kidding me?
This was one of the ones that kind of had you pegged for maybe a loss, although I did have the other ones all as wins. But he did specifically say this when he was talking about getting his most recent tattoo. He did say when we were on the show, when we were on a phone call together, how many he has. So I do remember this question.
Okay, so he's got his sleeve on his one arm. He's got his cross, which is getting covered up on the other arm. And then he's got his chest piece and he's got his rib piece. So if we're going by pieces, it's 4.
Mike has 7 tattoos.
Pieces.
Okay.
No way.
Okay, here's one.
No way.
Where did I go to college?
Madison.
Wrong. I went to UW Milwaukee.
Damn it. Damn it, UW. That's what you just said last weekend, too.
UWM, University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Should have known the Badgers wouldn't want you.
All right, this one. If you don't get this one, what year was Mike born?
Hmm. '85.
Boom! Got it.
Yes! Woo!
That, my friends listening in, is simple math because Tuesday was Mike's birthday, and we specifically mentioned when we were at the same.
Yeah, I hear you, Greg.
So congratulations on simple math.
Yep.
All right, my next question. This question, you're going to lose a lot of points with the Chief if you don't get this one right. Where did I go to high school? Which is also the same place my dad has been coaching football for over 45 years.
Yeah, the Catholic school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's trust me, on my diploma it doesn't say the Catholic school.
Waukesha Catholic School.
You know what? I'm going to give you a half point for that. Waukesha Catholic Memorial. I'll give you a half point for that.
Oh, the best football program in the state of Wisconsin.
That's right.
That's a full point. Because they got Chief Bauman coaching. Send all your kids there as long as they're actually good.
I'll give you a point for that one. We have 2 questions left.
Yeah.
How many championship rings, as much as we want to joke about it, how many championship rings does Mike have? Granted, these championship rings are for fantasy sports.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if he got one beforehand because I know he's got 3 for sure. 4.
That is correct. You have 3 correct.
Yep.
The last question. This question I talk about all the time. It is so simple.
Shut up, Greg. I don't want to hear your bullshit right now.
My daughter, Olivia.
Yeah.
What is her birth date?
Talk about this all the time.
I've even told the story several times. I bet you your fiance knows it. When is Olivia's birth date?
January 1st.
No. Her birthday is 6/7/8, June 7th, 2008.
I don't even remember you saying anything about that, Greg. That's fine. Good game. Appreciate it. Make me look like I knew it. I knew it, Mike. I knew he was going to tear me apart. Oh, here he comes.
He's coming back in.
What?
Four out of
What?
10. Go ahead.
You are a horrible human being.
I love you guys, man. I'm just fucking.
He got
man,
4 out of 10.
I
And
thought Greg.
total four.
I thought Greg would have asked me like, "What's his favorite condiment?" I would have said stadium sauce. What's Mike's favorite condiment? Sriracha. You know.
You think we'd keep it that easy for you?
Well, I would hope so.
Dude, we
Christ.
literally talked about Parker's middle name 2 weeks.
There he goes. He's gone. He gone. There he is. Oh man, I did all right, man. I didn't expect that, but yeah, I need to study up on you guys a little bit more.
I gave you some just real easy ones.
Yeah.
First off, you missed the VWO tat. Number one. Come
I
on.
knew it. I didn't have time to think about it.
Kinley
There's one on
turned
the
10
wrist.
2 weeks
There's
ago.
one on the stomach.
Fuck.
Kinley turned 10 2 weeks ago.
11.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured she's 11.
I'm gonna mess Mama Ben's. Make sure and come check on you. See if you're still clean.
I'm about to bring her to the Total Wine after this. Maybe I'll just indulge. Who knows?
Chief just made a whiskey and water there in Waukesha. You know, because
I hope not.
he can't even say where he coaches. I mean,
Oh,
he's in
I
the
knew
Hall
it.
of Fame.
I knew it was Catholic Memorial. I just didn't know if that was.
I'm surprised
Next
you
time he
remember.
comes to town, he's gonna buy us all dinner and then have a separate bill just sent to you.
Oh God.
This is just
4 out of 10, and that's if I gave you credit for 2 halvesies.
Yeah, that's right.
You didn't know my brother's name.
Park,
the future twist right there.
are you having fun, Park?
Parker, what's your middle name?
Pop.
What's your middle name?
Whoa,
What'd he say?
he didn't get it. He's 4.
He's 4. Matt wouldn't have known that.
I'm 4. All right, good. All right,
All
get
right.
out of here. We're gonna wrap this up here pretty
Bye.
quick. So bye.
Later. All right.
Enough
Let's-
of that.
Let's get into the NBA. All right,
Let's
first
go.
question in the NBA. What do you think Chris Paul's post-playing career aspirations are?
Yeah, so I think it will be definitely a kind of similar to Steve Nash. You know, I think it will be a Steve Nash type situation. I believe that he will hold out for a while until he gets the itch and the right situation with the right players to come into a front office type. I do see him maybe being type of coach, but I also could see him more being like a GM type situation. He will not choose a franchise that needs to be rebuilt. It will have to be headed in the right direction. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think the NBA would love for him to go to New York to do exactly what you just said he won't do. And I agree with you. I don't think he will, but I think the NBA would love to have him in New York to, run the Knicks organization. I think that he's going to actually play a year or two with whatever team he goes to. And whoever that is, I think it's going to be a team, like you said, that's kind of on the rise, that can turn a mid-market team, that he can turn a mid-market team into a contender, whether it's the Pacers like Larry Bird did, or the Utah Jazz, or, the Denver Nuggets, a team like that he can kind of put his own stamp on. He won't be, no matter what happens, he'll never be seen as good as the Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, with the Bulls. I think that it's going to be a team where he can put his own stamp on, the way that Danny Ainge did with the Celtics by then bringing in Stevens. I think he's going to be the next Danny Ainge. And I think that he's going to play a year or two with whatever team that is, to be able to put his own stamp on it. So it's going to be known as his team. But I'm looking forward to it because he's a really intelligent guy. And I think that his aspirations are not ownership in the way of Michael Jordan or, maybe Kevin Garnett in the next couple of years, but I think it's going to be as an executive where he's running the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, and I definitely, I can agree with that. I also think that it will be a good 7 to 10 years before he does step into any position. I can definitely see him as a guy that gave everything, every little drop of that he had to the game of basketball. And I think he will have to step away for a little while, but that's a good question. Next question we got. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
No, I was just going to say he's 38 years old. So your whole time frame seems about right. We're, mid 40s, jumps into it. So my next question is kind of a follow-up to that is, what are your feelings on Steve Nash being named the next coach of the Nets?
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, it's a beautiful situation for him. I mean, he's got Levert, he's got Durant, he's got Kyrie, and a bunch of up and comings. I definitely believe that it's a good fit for him, and I believe that he is such a leader. When he was a player, I grew up watching him all the time. I loved the way that he didn't try to ever do too much. And I think that's a big thing about rising stars and current stars in the NBA is that they literally try to do too much and they don't involve the team and they don't facilitate. So I think for him to bring back that brand to that team is key to them building a dynasty. So
Yeah, and I think that the thing that we all forget is when this happened, you had two different sides that were bitching. One of them said, "Well, we're the black coaches," and then to counteract that, it was, "Well, look at Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd got this exact opportunity." So there are plenty of examples of African American coaches that are getting the same opportunity that Steve Nash got. So I think that argument is null and void. Now, is it now? If you want to look at a seasoned coach, Ty Lue, how come he wasn't looked at? Okay, I can make the argument for that. Now, here's the thing to remember. They're not making this decision without the endorsement of Kyrie and the Durantula. So those guys wanted him as a coach. So if you want to bitch, if you're in the media or you're, an advocate for whether it's a black coach or a seasoned veteran coach, and you wanted those guys to get another crack at it, don't bitch to the media. Don't bitch to me. Don't bitch to Matty Benz. Don't bitch to anyone else. Look at, Kyrie and the Durantula. They're the ones who wanted him. So they see something in him. And you know what? The best coaches in the NBA aren't always the greatest players. They're not always the one. They're the point guard that knows how to. That's why I'm surprised that John Stockton never got into coaching. It's the point guard that can manage an entire team, the other four guys. So I'm really excited to see this because I think that Steve Nash is that gritty type player that can turn Kyrie Irving into the player that we all kind of think he can be when he's playing with another superstar, the way that he did for that year with LeBron. Yeah. So I'm excited to see that because I think that really it's, having a team in New York, Brooklyn, and to be more specific, is only going to be good for the NBA. So I like it.
Yeah, it's a great market to be in, and I do see that they're kind of taking that Steve Kerr, approach to this of grabbing a facilitator and encouraging people to facilitate because these guys have shown, especially Durant, that Golden State was kind of a tough one because they had so many shining stars. But that's what happens if, Curry was off, Durant could take over and vice versa, things of that nature. So, yeah, Good question.
All right, next one is what's your biggest surprise, either player or team, to come out of the NBA bubble this year?
Yeah, so my team is going to be the Heat and specifically Jimmy Buckets. I was a fan when he was here until the whole drama that occurred towards the end, and it was hard for me to like him. I literally had resentments towards him and how he handled the situation, but to see how he is comfortable and how he's in a place where he wants to be there, and for him, that is key. He needed to find a place where he wanted to be in a market where he could be himself with players that wanted to play his brand of basketball. And you can see how that has occurred and how it's flourishing for him right now. And yeah, I mean, just in of itself in the postseason right now, he's averaging about 22 points per game with 5 assists and 5 rebounds, but just what he does on both sides of the ball and encouraging that, you can see it. You can see the matchup mismatches that he gives and the players that he has on his team and how he's taught them to play this brand of basketball. It's amazing. So that's my pick.
I'm going to take the other side of that coin, and I'm going to say the Milwaukee Bucks. And you'll like this analogy because you're a big baseball fan. In baseball, we see whether it's the Minnesota Twins, the Oakland A's, the Seattle Mariners, we see teams that are built for the regular season, but not built for the playoffs. And they're just teams that know how to grit it out in baseball. But yet when it comes to playoff time, they usually don't succeed to the level that they did in the regular season. I never thought that was the case in a sport like basketball, especially in the NBA, when you have one player or two players that can take over a game. And then now after watching the game last night, I think that the Bucks really need to do something big around Giannis. Now they got to keep Giannis. Will they? I don't know. As a Bucks fan, I hope they do, obviously, but they need to do something to make themselves more of a playoff team. They have to stop worrying about 65, 70 regular season game wins, and they need to worry more about being able to win in the playoffs. What it tells me is you do a podcast with me. Mike is on it. All I ever talked about during the regular season was the reason why Giannis's numbers weren't so big was because he was never playing more than 30 minutes in a game. Well, that's now coming back to bite them in the ass because now they're playing every other day and they need him for 45 to 48 minutes a game.
Yep.
And so you can't. So really what it boils down to is you need another top level superstar on the Bucks. Middleton isn't doing it. Bledsoe's not doing it. To be honest with you, since they got back in the bubble, the second best player on the Bucks by far has been Brook Lopez. He's the most consistent player other than Giannis, but they're not built for the playoffs. Right. And it is showing right now. And it's very frustrating because everything that the Bucks did since they picked up this young kid from Greece told me they're going to do it. They're going to do it. They're finally going to break through that mid-market team. And what are they doing? They're playing like it's like it's the regular season all over again. And it's pissing me off. Sure. But it's opening my eyes to the fact that basketball does have that same mentality where you can have regular season teams who don't perform well in the playoffs. And it's not a fluke. It's not a fluke. The Bucks do not deserve to win this series because of the way that they're built. So,
and I think that's a big thing to realize is that, basketball is one of those sports where the market controls everything. Yeah. Unless you get real lucky in the draft and unless you build that way, it's almost impossible. I mean, Middleton and Giannis have both been fine in the postseason, but like you said, they're both averaging about 33, 34 minutes to, a game, which is absurd because those are your two all-stars. Those are your team. And everybody talked all year about how Milwaukee's depth is this and how they're so deep on the bench and this and that. But what happens when you meet a team that doesn't allow you to put up an enormous amount of points? Milwaukee's known for their two-way ball. Well, so is Miami. And now you're seeing that mismatch of a team that can actually lock them down. And I've said it all season is that when you get a team that can take Giannis out of the game or almost hack-a-shack him basically and just send him to the line because he can't make his free throws, that's what determines, he is the most valuable player to Milwaukee, but if he was on another squad, is he a Scottie Pippen? Does he need someone to lead and take the reins? That's tough. I don't see them finding a free agent that wants to come play for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And when you look at it, Giannis got Defensive Player of the Year, the best defensive player this season. He's going to get the MVP.
Right.
So let's just say that he's the best offensive player and he shuts down the other the best player on the other team, whoever he's guarding. That still leaves 8 other players. Yep. And the Bucks have not been in the playoffs yet where their next 4 players are better than – now they handled Orlando, but it's obvious that Jimmy Butler and all the rest of Miami as a unit are a lot better than the best defensive player and the best offensive player. Now, if the best defensive player was on Milwaukee, but it wasn't Giannis, that'd be a different story. But if the best player defensively and offensively is the same person, it leaves a lot of questions with the other 4 guys.
Yeah, and I also think that just plain and simple, Eric Spoelstra has just simply outcoached Budenholzer.
Absolutely.
You can see it each year in of itself. It's like, is it really the roster of guys that are losing in these, where they should be going the distance? I don't necessarily believe that. I think Milwaukee's team as a whole is a great squad, but how they're being coached and how they're not changing their schemes up and how you need to realize okay, Giannis, I'm giving you all these minutes tonight because I need you out there, not pulling you out at the end because you're getting bamboozled. Your guy needs to be out there in the fourth quarter. He needs to realize in the fourth quarter, you're going to be playing that whole thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I got to give Spoelstra a lot of credit. I was chief officer of he's just a Pat Riley clone when you brought in LeBron and Bosh and you had D Wade there. I thought I could have coached that team. But since then, and since Dwayne Wade got a little long in the tooth and, wasn't that star player, even when the Heat weren't that good, you still didn't want to play them. Right. And now you bring in a guy like Jimmy Butler, who nobody would say that Jimmy Butler was a top 10 talent after he left after he left Minnesota because of his attitude. And what they really realized was that Jimmy Butler is a team player. You just got to be willing to play as hard as he does.
Yep.
And I give Spoelstra a lot of credit for being able to work this talent in. So
yeah, definitely. All right, GBG, your player to watch.
My player to watch is, I wanted to get it a little unique this week. My player to watch this week is today, Authentic, an 8-1 shot at the Kentucky Derby. On the board, on the morning line, he's the third place horse, and he's placed in third. He's got the third best odds. I got him going in. I think because the favorite is in the 17th slot, I think that he can grab that rail and ride the rail all the way through. So if you got any money and you want to put a couple of shekels down on the Kentucky Derby, go with Authentic, who as of this morning is 8-1 and the third place in the morning line. I went with a horse.
So I'm going to run over to Canterbury on my way to go pick up Mama Ben's here, and I'm going to drop a 20 down, and I'm going to put it on Authentic.
To win.
I was going to say to place. I don't know if I want to do it to win. 8-1, huh? So that's what you're saying? It's 8-1? Or it was?
It was 8-1 this morning. I actually think it's going to drop because, people in the Kentucky, in the Triple Crown, I follow it a lot more than I should. People end up taking people closer to the race time. People start taking long shots more, and the favorites start dropping. And these three horses are far ahead. I would take Authentic to win, and you're gonna win. You're gonna win over $150 if you put a 20 down.
Sure, sounds good. All right, good take. And finishing it up with GBG's final thought.
Okay, earlier in this episode, I went off and I gave a lot of credit to Kirk Cousins. I also bashed Milwaukee Bucks for what they're doing right now. We are a little less than 2 months away from the race for president, the election for president of the United States. And all I see on social media, all I see in the media, all I see on any type of format is everyone bitching and whining about the guy they don't like and talking about the guy they do like. Well, what I want to encourage people to do is, look, we're in a two-party system, and I'm not going to get into this big rant about how we need more people running because that usually doesn't work. Look back in the 1930s in Germany. Look who we got. But what I'm saying is that find a way to find something positive about the guy you're not voting for. And what that's going to do is it's going to make you realize more about what you're passionate about the guy you are voting for. And what it's also going to do in this is give the people who do support that other person a lot of respect. Because right now, all I see is if you don't like, and I would hope that 100% of our viewing audience, listening audience, doesn't like everything going on with all of these kids being found, with child trafficking. But the people who want Biden are blaming Trump. The people who like Trump are blaming Biden. Well, here's the thing. Nobody likes it. So let's find the source of it and let's find out where we really disagree with the people we're not voting for. Because you know what? Trump is not the spawn of Satan, and Joe Biden is not actually dead and a puppet for the Democratic Party. He might be a little, he's 77 years old. He might flub up some words, and Trump says a lot of obnoxious things. But you know what these guys are? They're two people who are doing what they feel is best. So find out what you feel is best and vote for the guy that caters to that. Because you know what? The other guy is not, like I said, the spawn of Satan. And if you can find good in the competition, then you can probably find good in your candidate and be more realistic about your debates that you have with your friends. And more realistic and more, use a lot more common sense. So that's all I got.
Beautiful. Beautiful way to word it. Beautiful end of the show. Once again, shout out to Mike Reeves for stopping by. Hopefully he's having a great time up there. We will see you next week.
Live at NBC Studios.
Yeah, at NBC Studio. Other than that, have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy Labor Day. Hopefully you don't have to work. You shouldn't have to work, but if you do, enjoy it at that. And we are out.